Good morning, and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Arlington. We are an intentionally welcoming congregation, open to people of all backgrounds, races, genders, sexual orientations, and abilities. At UUCA, we encourage people to come for community, find inspiration, and live with purpose. My name is Burke Kapler, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. Today is Sunday, March 28th, and the theme of today's service is I'm going to go back there someday. We'll be talking about those places and those spaces that are special to us. For me, this is an easy one. I mean, I can think of plenty of vacations and trips I've taken where I felt like I never wanted to come home. But if you ask me what places resound for me emotionally, the answer is simple. It would have to be my grandparents' homes. I grew up close to both sets of my grandparents. My dad's parents, Norman and Alice, who I called Papep and Graham, they lived in the same town we did. And my mom's parents, Bill and Jewel, or Granddad and Graham, lived just one or two townships over, which meant that we visited constantly and were deeply involved in each other's lives. And yes, I know that I called both of my grandmothers Graham, and no, no one was ever confused by that. I couldn't have explained in words why I enjoyed visiting so much until I was older, an adult, when my parents told me that I was always visibly relaxed and calm when I spent time with my grandparents. If that was the case, it was surely due to Norman, Alice, Bill, and Jewel and their ability to create a safe and warm place for their grandkids. Norman was larger than life, a huge personality. Alice was the classic doting grandmother, and Jewel was right behind her, always with a craft or a project for a kid. And Bill loved, in this order, golf, reading, Clint Eastwood westerns, Klondike bars, Tootsie Rolls, and Hershey Kisses. He taught me to love all of those things too, except for golf. Sorry, Granddad. Even now, the smells of pot roast or skin cream or cigarette smoke or certain houseplants take me straight back to their living rooms. Of course, now that I'm an adult, I can see things through different eyes, and I realized that what I saw then was not necessarily the whole story. Norman could barely sit still and was stubborn and hot-tempered. Alice had an iron will, despite being no taller than 4'10", but she was often ill. Jewel can be best described as a piece of work. The easiest of them all was Bill, my mom's father, but he too had a temper at times. But as a kid, I rarely saw those other sides of them. Instead, whatever else was going on, they ensured their homes were places where I knew I was loved and valued and always, always welcome. But contrary to the sermon's title, I can't go back there someday. None of them are still with us. Alice passed in 1996 when I was in college. Norman beat off cancer multiple times and saw me graduate from law school before an infection took him in 2000. Cancer took Bill in 2002. He refused treatment, went into hospice, and passed in peace, surrounded by his children. Jewel made it to 2010 and was over 90 years old when she passed in her sleep. She was survived by 4 children, 6 grandchildren, and 7 great-grandchildren. Other people live in those houses, those living rooms that I used to visit. In fact, I'm not even sure those houses still exist. As I think about all this, what comes to mind is a line from Spirit of Life, one of our most treasured hymns. The line says, "Roots hold me close, wings set me free." I've been fortunate in my life to have had wings that took me places and set me free. But Norman, Alice, Bill, and Jewel gave me the roots I needed too, holding me close and giving me a safe and secure place to stand, even if I was far away. In college, I spent a semester abroad in Japan, living with a Japanese family, immersed in a totally different culture and completely and utterly homesick. But Bill wrote me constantly, simple letters about chores, the weather, and yes, golf. I still have them, and they helped immensely then, and they mean more to me now than I can say. I hope today's service inspires you to think about your own special places, and maybe, like me, the special people in your life who helped shape them for you. As always, you can continue the conversation and discuss your favorite places and people with others during our virtual coffee hour on Facebook after the service. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome.
Our call to worship this morning is from Abby Willowroot. May this house be blessed by the elements. May East's air bring inspiration and communication. May South's fire bring warmth and playful spirit. May west's water bring easy flow and healing energy. May north's earth bring calm, grounding, and security. May the strong powers of the elements fill this home with happiness. Bless all who enter here. Now I invite you to join us in lighting our chalice. We gather together as a community of memory and hope to celebrate life and its infinite possibilities for love. We light this chalice as a symbol of the light within every human heart. May our individual sparks meet and merge, bringing both light and warmth to the world.
Thank you, Bell Choir. Thank you, Sophia, for that beautiful piece of music. It is so wonderful to be here live in our sanctuary, one of my very favorite places. And those of you who know me may know that one of my very favorite activities on Sunday morning is Time for All Ages. And so at this point in time, I would like to invite up any people young at heart, high in energy, who would like to participate. You can do this, my young friends, by asking your parents to raise the hand in Zoom, or maybe, probably, many of you are more familiar with Zoom than your parents are and can do it all by yourself. I encourage anyone who is in our RE program or friends to step forward. Oh, I see one of my usual suspects from so often on Sunday, Annika. Annika, it is so good to see you this morning. How are you doing today?
Good, and it's Annika.
Annika. You know, the one thing I love about you, Annika, is you are not afraid to tell it like it is. Thank you. Thank you for correcting me. So, Annika, I'm in the sanctuary. You're familiar with this space, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. So I have a question for you. And if there are any other of my younger friends, let me know if you want to get on this as well. But Annika, I want to know, what is your favorite spot in this whole building? Do you have one?
Yeah, I think it's called the Worship Cafe. I don't know, but it's where the plays usually are, and I like it because it has the glass mosaic, and it's really pretty, and it's a nice place where you can just gather.
The center with that great big orange stained glass window?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, isn't that thing beautiful? Do you ever just like go in there when the sun hits it and just try to like get the color on your hands and stuff and just see what it does?
Yeah, it's so pretty.
It is so, so beautiful. I really miss that space too. And I know that you do a lot of work with Chalice Theater and other theater groups. You probably are itching to perform again, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm itching to see you perform as well. I think that'll be fantastic when that finally happens. So, Annika, as you know, the last year, we haven't been in this space, right? And things have been a little different. What have you liked
Yeah.
the best over the last year that has been different with worship that you've actually kind of liked?
Well, we get to, instead of like sitting in the seats in the sanctuary, my family sometimes gathers up on the couch and we can just lay down and be lazy. And I have to be like, yes.
You know,
Hey.
if it wasn't such a huge undertaking to move these pews in the sanctuary, I think it'd be awesome to do like a beach blanket sleepover sleeping bag night in the sanctuary if I knew it wouldn't take so much manpower to move those pews. I think that would be awesome to maybe even just have a PJ Sunday service. What do you think? All
That'd
right.
be really fun.
I would be all for that. Bring your stuffy and stay comfy. So, Annika, I know you love the center. I know you love being cozy at home, but my last question for you I want to know about today is, what are you most looking forward to when we resume coming back in the building?
Probably getting to be part of the choir again and getting to perform in a play and just being together, seeing everyone's faces again.
Isn't it great to just be in space with another person?
Yeah.
So, and you really like singing with a choir?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay. Are you the loudest in the choir?
I don't know. I might be, probably.
You might be, probably. Annika, I cannot wait to see you come back here and be on these steps. Remind me that it is pronounced Annika. And let everyone know all of the beauty and insight that you have to offer. Annika, you and all of the friends in RE make this place special. And thank you so much for taking time this Sunday to come on up to the chancel and to tell us what you love about this building. I really appreciate you. Are you good?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, it wouldn't be Sunday if we didn't play out the kids and send them down to RE. So let's do that.
Okay, here I am, so excited to be in the UUCA kitchen, the new stove, and talking about why I pledged to UUCA, which basically, I mean, it just dates back to 25 years ago when I first walked into this building, and I thought, this is my place, this is my home, I've got to support it, and that's why I pledged then, and I continue to pledge every year. So to keep this home alive, to keep the home fires burning, basically. That's it.
We are Alan.
And Gerda Kieswetter.
We started coming home to UUCA over 30 years ago when we returned from a long stint in the Middle East. And we have been coming home to this church ever since.
And why do we love and support UUCA? Community, friendships, a sense of belonging, a way to process our lives thoughtfully, to help others find their way through covenant groups, RE, social justice work.
Soon we hope to come home in person to celebrate the beauty of our spaces and to nurture the beloved community that we share.
Starting this Sunday and ending on Saturday, April 24th, 70% of the offering will be given to Alive, a multi-congregational organization responding to poverty in the city of Alexandria. UUCA has been a 30-year partner with Alive, and your donation will provide food and help to prevent evictions, the two most critical needs facing those in Alexandria who have lost employment during this difficult time. There are many ways to pledge: through our website, by text, using the Give Plus app, and by mailing a check. Please put plate in the memo line. As you are making your donations, know that 70% of what you give will be going directly to people in need. I ask that you please give accordingly and consider adding a little extra to your gift this week. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for those who shared their gifts with us, for we are enriched by their giving. Let us be grateful even for our needs, so that we may learn from the generosity of others.
Almost 30 years ago now, my then husband and I decided that we wanted to live in the country with our family. So we purchased a 140-year-old farmhouse that needed one of everything, but it was on 110 acres of land, beautiful woods and fields, and so we worked at it. And when I finally was sitting in my newly renovated music room, and where I could see the sunrise in one window and the sunset in the other window and the moon above in the skylight, it was just beautiful, and I just felt so much at home that I was moved to write a piece of music, to play a piece of music that I called country. But to me, it represents home, that feeling that you have of home. And I remember when I played it for my sound engineer friend, he said, "When I hear that music, it sounds like I'm leafing through old photographs." So I invite you to leaf through your photo albums now in your mind and in your heart, and return to that place where you feel most at home.
Thank you, Sophia. Friends, I ask you now to please join me in the spirit of meditation, of prayer, I ask you to take a deep breath and get comfortable where you are. I encourage you to look away from your screen, to look out the window. Listen to the sounds of nature outside, of cars, of breezes, and just breathe in. This rain is an exercise in hope. The dull skies and the damp chill can lead one to circle in gray thoughts, making one focus on the misery of now, if one is not careful. But how often do we hear the words, "We need the rain"? Knowing that this muddy mess being created now will feed possibility into beauty. This time of year is filled with moments of muddy reality leading to beauty. Last night started Passover, a time of year where the people of Israel honored those who suffered under Pharaoh and fled in hopes of finding freedom. This is the time they honor the pain and they lift up the beauty. In the Christian tradition, this Sunday commemorates Jesus entering Jerusalem, knowing that a week later that he would suffer in order to free others. Palm Sunday commemorates embracing pain in order to bring beauty. This Wednesday coming up. This Wednesday is the Transgender Day of Visibility. A day that acknowledges the struggle of transgender and non-gender conforming people. And it celebrates their accomplishments and their whole beautiful selves. There is so much beauty that is eminent in this moment. So many colors itching to spring up from the ground. There is so much beauty in this moment, in fact, that if you just close your eyes and listen, you may just hear the beauty of the rain. I needed that. Thank you, Sophia. Thank you. It is called The Cottage. Let me make that very clear. For if anyone ever calls it the cabin, my wife Wendy corrects them instantly. When she talks to it, you can hear the capital C of the cottage, making it more than just a small getaway off the Allegheny River. To my wife, it is something so much more. To my wife, it is sacred. Now, originally, I called the cottage sacred half-heartedly. It was more about poking fun of my wife's devotion to that place more than anything else. She talked about how there was a certain way of life at the cottage that should not be changed, ever. When her parents installed a microwave a few years ago in the kitchen at the cottage, my wife almost threw it in the river when she found out about it, because electronics are indeed blasphemy at the cottage. For her, the cottage is simplicity and austerity. There's no TV, there is no internet, there is no cell service. Even the little AM transistor radio gets a scant few stations. What the cottage is about is simply sitting on the porch and watching the Allegheny River flow. The cottage is about kayaking, frog catching, inner tubing, campfires, and the large rope swing near the bank of the river, the one that the kids race to get to first as soon as we pull in to the driveway. The cottage's board games and card games. It's jigsaw puzzles and crossword puzzles. It's knitting and drawing and writing and reading and reading and reading. The cottage is a hot cup of coffee in your chilly hands first thing in the morning as you sit wrapped in a thick blanket on the porch swing and you watch the morning mist break free of the river, revealing the surface of the water at the pace of a lazy mountain sunrise. Maybe you're starting to get an idea as to why my wife thinks the cottage is sacred. It's about taking time to clear away all of those have to and need tos that she so often lets define her entirety. It allows her to focus on what is really important. In that sacred spot off the Allegheny River, that is where my wife can focus on who she is. It allows her to answer the big questions, the ones that the little daily activities in life push back to the back of her brain, to the back stove of her mind, so she can ignore them until this moment of clarity. This is where she can breathe. This is where she can be herself. So March, April is when my wife and I start drawing up our cottage plans. We figure out the dates when her father and the other families that come up with us are able to get to the cottage at an equitable point. Now, due to COVID restrictions this year, we were concerned that Wendy's parents wouldn't allow us and our friends to be there. And so my friends started looking at other cabin rentals. And I say cabin very intentionally in that moment, for it could not be the cottage. See, these cabin rentals, they sounded fun, but I knew they wouldn't fill the need for the cottage that my wife and now my entire family has. The cottage isn't just about that getaway time with friends and making connection. That's a huge part of it. But there's a sacredness in the space, in the land itself. You see, my wife grew up at the cottage. She helped dig the hole for the outhouse. She spent long weekends with high school friends at the cottage, and only the closest of those friends made the cut. When Wendy and I were dating in college, she invited me to the cottage for a long weekend with some friends one summer. That was when I knew our relationship was serious. It was the only place that my wife could imagine being married. It's the only place where she wanted to honeymoon. The cottage for her is a place of both vulnerability and strength. It is a reminder of the best times of her life, and it challenges her to make those best times moving forward. As Burke said so eloquently at the top of our service, it is that line from Spirit of Life. For her, it is the roots that hold her close and the wings that set her free. Now, I know many of us do not have the same luxury that my wife does of having a little cottage in the woods, a little sacred getaway. So I wonder, what are the sacred spaces for you? Where are the places that you hold close and they set you free? Many of us, like Burke, have a relative's house that relaxes our spirit as soon as we pull into a driveway. Maybe that's your sacred place. Maybe your sacred place is the path that you walk regularly with a loved one. The path that reminds you of a certain conversation the two of you had when the light hit their face just the right way when they weren't watching and you saw. It's the walk that you go on when you need to have the tough conversations. What is the place that both lifts your heart and calls you to be your better self? The place that is filled with positive memories and good intentions. And can you get back there? Maybe, like Burke said, those sacred places for you are gone, inhabited by new faces, buildings, or moments that just make return impossible. For those of us who grew up somewhere that we eventually moved away from, you know that returning years later is a weird feeling. You're being struck by nostalgia while at the same time getting a big hit of an unsettling feeling that something is wrong. You may notice that small changes have taken place while you were gone, and you think to yourself, that's the unsettling part. It's the changes that have happened since I've been away. Perhaps. But sometimes everything can be the same, and it still feels wrong. Imagine returning to your old teenage bedroom as if it were untouched by years and visiting it once again. You would be filled with nostalgia, and it would probably be an unsettling feeling. Because if you could be in that room and stop and take a breath for a moment, you'd realize that one thing has changed. You. I am in our shared sacred space now, live. I'm hoping you've noticed by now. Throughout the year, we have had different pieces recorded in the sanctuary that have given us glimpses back into this beautiful, sacred space. But this is the first time we are doing anything live in our sanctuary since the installation of Reverend Amanda. This is the first live Sunday service to take place here in over a year, and it is done through no small feat. Does this service for you, right now, in this moment, feel different to you than the other services as it does to me? Are you filled with the memories of the past services? Are you excited for the possibility of returning to this sacred space? Are you excited knowing that one day you will see Reverend Amanda's first live service with a congregation? Are you a little nervous? Are you asking yourself, is this possible? Can we really go home again? Yeah. Yes, you can come back here someday. But I want to warn you what coming back is going to be. It is not going to be the same. It is going to be something that feels both strange and familiar at the same time. We will never go back to how things were exactly in fall of 2019. We have changed too much over the past months. The way we interact with each other in this space is going to need to change as well. Don't be surprised to see changes within the building start to happen when we start to come back in order to maintain some of the things that we have learned over the past year. The building will change, and we constantly change. What is the one constant? The sacredness of this space. That's the mark of a sacred place, a truly sacred place. Even when both you and the space change, it still has insight to offer you. In the past 40 years for my wife, the cottage has had an extra room put into it, new porch railings, and of course, that horrible microwave. All these things changed the physical nature of the space, but not the sacred nature of the space. In those past 40 years, my wife has changed. She has gone from a quirky teen with thick glasses to a young woman in college wondering what her role would be in life, to a veteran teacher who can see retirement on the horizon. Through all of those personal changes, the cottage has been the space that has allowed her to hold both the memories of the past and the possibilities ahead. It has been a space that throughout her life has allowed her to be who she needed to be in that moment. It is a space that has given her insight she needed to embrace the next steps of the journey. No matter how much her or the space change, she finds insight. Isn't that the goal of our religious community? To provide a space that accepts us where we are, that gives us the tools to move forward and be the best versions of ourselves, a place that reflects back to us what we need in order to grow. And hasn't this building been that space? Not just this sanctuary either. Fellowship Hall, the RE classrooms, Annika's favorite room, the center, and every other nook and cranny that you can hide in. How often have we gotten exactly what we needed in that moment from a small group? How often have we gained insight from a Faith 360 class, or even from a simple conversation at coffee hour? I have seen moments in this building of spiritual deepening during board meetings, and more than once. The love that happens in this building reverberates throughout the walls, and it doubles with each person it encounters. And the love and spirit of all of us who have ever been here and all of us who ever will be here is nurtured and grows in this space. Okay, not just this space. Yes, the building is important. Yes, it is a structure with a lot of sacred value. But I'm going to be honest with you, friends, I have seen UUCA beyond these walls. And not just at marches or demonstrations or at voice meetings. I've seen UUCA at coffee shops where congregants meet to catch up. I've heard of UUCA moments when a congregant tells me of a phone call they've had with another congregant. And I see UUCA every Sunday during that Zoom coffee hour and the breakout rooms. To paraphrase a quote, which you may know, when there are 2 or 3 gathered in the name of UUCA, the sacred is among them. As our capital campaign said last year, we are the church. It's the connections we make here in this space that help create those sacred bonds, just like being able to take them outside of the building. And just like my wife and returning to the cottage each year, it is the frequency of intentional reflection and growth that begins to create that sacred space. Intentionality and frequency. To keep the space sacred, we need to keep engaging with it and with each other. Wendy's parents, the true and proper owners of the cottage, are getting to an age where the ritual of opening and closing the cottage each summer is getting harder and harder. If my family, if my wife wants to keep the cottage that sacred space and not just a memory, we're going to need to consider taking over those maintenance rituals for the cottage. It means, quite honestly, that we're going to have to move to get closer. We're going to need to set time aside from our schedules to just do the work at the cottage that needs to be done to take care of it. We are going to need to spend money. Repairs aren't free. And these are things that we are not only quite willing to do, my family is willing to rearrange our lives around them because that sacred space is that important. And sometimes I look at it from a completely logical perspective and it drives me mad. It seems ridiculous to do all of this stuff for a silly plot of land. But then I look at the pictures in my house. So many of them from the cottage. Huge landscapes from the banks of the Allegheny River. Candid photos of friends of mine from summers past. The portrait that hangs in the hall of my wedding party was taken at the cottage. And so many baby pictures in our house have the cottage as their backdrop. It's looking at all of these images is when I realize that logic has nothing to do with it. I want to keep that space sacred, and not for me. I want it for my children. I want it for their children, and so on. I want more people to experience the sacredness that is the cottage. And I feel the exact same when I look out into this sanctuary from this pulpit here. I want to share this beautiful, loving community with the whole world. I want our established members to regale us with all of the stories of the past. And I want for all of our new members to tell us their visions of a better world. I want people to find their voice of leadership in a board meeting. And I want them to find the ear of compassion in a covenant group. I want to see this community stay strong and loving while we figure out how to safely make the transition from virtual reality to the new in-person future that awaits us all. I cannot wait to see you come back here someday. That is just absolutely, absolutely beautiful. That song always brings tears to my eyes, and that rendition did not make it any easier. For our benediction, I want you to all know that you all are sacred. That it is your love that makes this place sacred. And I leave you with the paraphrased words of Molly Jewell, who is so excited for that stove. I am too, Molly. This is our place. This is our home. That's why we support it. May it be so.